Hello, welcome everyone tonight to the Beacon of Light podcast. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We are thrilled to have with us a new amazing author. Her name is Tammy Largin. And so before we start talking to her, we're going to jump into this. I'm April Tribe Juke. Welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast. I believe we are all made with light, and light is hope. This podcast brings authors who write stories of hope to all of you. Your journey to be inspired and amplified by these stories starts. And we are back. Thanks so much. We are excited to. Wow, I've got lots of things going on here. Let me change some of these banners. Blocking ourselves out here. There we are. Okay. So we're just trying to welcome everybody here tonight and welcome. Tammy, thank you again for all the things that you have written about. And this book that you have, I'm going to pop it up here on the screen real quick. It's called Children Are Like Arrows in the Hands of a Warrior.
That's correct.
Okay. This is kind of a big title. So tell us a little bit about yourself and then let's jump into that title.
Well, so currently I live in Jacksonville, Florida with my husband and my little dog, Roxy. I am a graduated homeschool mom, and I was also a teacher for 25 years roughly in the homeschool hybrid programs of Georgia. I grew up kind of a free range kid on a guest ranch outside of Glenwood Springs, Colorado. And because of that, I took so much of what my parents did with me when I began my parenting season. And through that, we raised our daughter differently, and people began to notice that she was different. And eventually, people started asking me to write a book. So that's where we get Children Are Like Arrows in the Hands of a Warrior.
Okay, that's a lot to sign.
Sorry.
But I got it. No, it's all good.
It's hard work being that interpreter. I understand.
Right. Sometimes when you're like, I gotta finish. I think they're used to this radio silence that happens. All is well. That deaf group is like, bring it on.
Exactly.
We're awesome. Okay, so raising your daughter, where people started to notice things were different. Explain some of the differences that they noticed.
So the first thing was her confidence. Our daughter was born with a banded hand, which is a no fingers on her right hand and just half a thumb. And we decided that God didn't really want us to pursue any kind of medical for that was to be her challenge. And so out of that, she had this incredible confidence, not only in doing things, but also in her faith. We felt it was important that she own her faith. And out of that, God was just incredible and showed himself to her at a very young age. And she has a love of God and a love of people and loves to share the gospel.
That is fantastic. The birth that we come through and the things that are attached or the lack of attached, the challenges that they provide, if we look at them in that way and not as a victim, the whole world really shifts. Now, with that being said, I'm sure people well-meaning probably saw the challenges with your daughter, and felt, I need to comment or help or offer or wonder. And all things are true because humanity is curious. Now, there's curiosity that can lead to cruelty. There's curiosity that can lead to just information. And so, with this confidence that she had, and with the title of your book, did you think that how you were shaping her was in that shape of an arrow?
Originally, I didn't know that I was doing that. Originally, we would just wanted her to be her own person. We wanted her to understand consequences, both good and bad, from choices. We felt it was important that she made her own choices, clear down to what school she should attend, what she should do once she graduated from high school, um, whether she should play a sport or not play a sport. All of that was her choice. I think a lot of times parents don't want to give their children too many choices because they think they can't make a decision. But when they're children is when they should learn how to choose, because we as adults make up to 35,000 choices a day, and they need to practice choice in their home. And that was very foreign to people, that we gave her those kind of choices that seemed so big.
That's really interesting. I think maybe we've lost the idea of what parenting is. Now, before
Mhm.
y'all write me hate mail, let's just take a pause on what I said. Um, so thinking about that response, people think, oh, wait, stop. Do they have the mindset of safety first, of protection? Okay, there is a level to all of that. As an infant, protect at all cost.
Mhm.
Yes, because they are vulnerable, that they are dependent on everything. As you see the dependency lessen just because of now they're more movable, now they can explore more, allow with borders, boundary, but the bump, the fall down, the hot stove touch,
Right.
you learn fast. And the choices that are offered within that learning of, if you still want to think about the protection and the safety, are still there,
Mhm.
but not in the smotherfication
Right.
of it.
Good word.
Patience.
Motherfication. I'm taking that with me.
Take it. So I think really that's what you're saying is the building of confidence comes in allowing for choice, for failure, for review, reflection. Okay, well, what happened there? So, can you share a time when your daughter had one of those reflective moments? We'll say.
So there's actually, so my favorite one about being a parent and letting go is probably the playground. So many times, parents didn't know that she didn't have any fingers on her hand, and she played with her kids, their kids, like there was no big deal. But then she would try to figure out how to do something with that little hand, such as climbing those rocks or the monkey bars. And she had to hold on with her wrist and then one hand, and that was a whole different experience. And so she'd fall down and hit the ground, and I sit very cautiously in the chair, waiting for her to decide if she was really hurt or if she wanted to try it again. And a lot of times she'd get up, brush herself off, and go right back to try it again to figure out how to do what she wanted to do, even though her hand had no fingers.
Exactly. And that's parenting, watching, pulling back, stepping in, pulling back,
Hmm.
and allowing, because that spirit that's given within us of that independence and that freedom and that thinking on the opportunity is there. And sometimes through different structures, it might feel like it's stamped out. And good people, good teachers, good parents everywhere try to keep the flexibility of choice open and
Right.
not all of this control. So, when you say in the title of your book about how children are the arrows in the hands of a warrior, who's the warrior?
So we as the parents are the warrior, because as a warrior, we carry our quiver, which is full of our arrows, and our arrows, according to God, are children. It was through God giving me Psalms 127:4, that children are like arrows, that I was intrigued with why God called them arrows. And out of that, I figured out that through some research and some hands on opportunity, that how God wants us to raise our children is very similar to the traditional methods of making an arrow.
It's that in that, how do I say this? The structure really is set before us. And if we follow that ideal of how to learn and offer with choice, the opportunity for our children to go far is immeasurable, really. They'll surprise you in so many ways.
Exactly.
You'll think, and I think it's through conversation. So as parents, if we say we probably squeeze in and build walls and not even really thinking that we are.
Right.
Oh, so and so had this experience, and based on that experience, this is the result. So based on that one-time result, here's the label.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
hold on just a minute. Let's get some time. Let's try again. So I have a sweet little 9-year-old. I just can't, and then fill in the blank. So I will never fill in the blank. I'm like, sir, you're 9. We're going to try again because you have a whole long life if you're 9 and you're already saying this. Why are
Right.
we talking this way? Well, tell me more. And I
Mhm.
need to know more so then I can then redirect, put back in that positivity and, try again.
Right.
I just, it surprises me the adultish mindset, and I mean in that way of
Yeah.
the old grandpa way of thinking. Well, this happened, that's the result. I can never, what, where's the try, where's the effort? And if you think about the society right now, where is it, where is the motivation to try to keep going, to take the learning as what learning is. Learning is, oops, that didn't work. Okay, let's try it this way. Ah, that was more successful till I hit this point. I should just quit. No, you should you should keep trying.
Right. Yeah.
That's really rare today. So, if somebody were to pick up your book, what would be the teaching for parents within the book?
So there's several different things within the book. We talk about, excuse me, we talk about discipline, and how discipline's important from as young as 9 months, right? Just because they're testing the waters. We talk about choice, challenge through choice, where you give children two choices on a difficult task and they pick which direction they want to go. And we do it in baby steps so that they can do something really big and feel successful, so that helps them understand um, that they can conquer some of these big things. We also talk about good consequences and bad consequences in that choice section, where you're going to say to your children, you're going to ask lots of questions. So, when something happens that they're not supposed to do, instead of getting after them, you're going to say, all right, so what did you learn from this? So, what was the good consequence? Because even in the situation where you get disciplined, there's still good consequences because you learn from it. The stove is hot. I learned not to touch the stove. That's actually the good consequence. The bad consequence is mom already told me the stove was hot, so I shouldn't have touched it in the first place. So, I talk a little bit about legacy, how important it is to share those stories. So I really hope that my book encourages parents to just think outside the box of what the world is telling us and to look more towards God's word on how we need to raise our children.
Yeah, and there's a whole book. The
It's,
Bible really helps in a lot of this. I think sometimes when we're looking through, we're looking for like the topical guide. Well, I don't see the word parenting here, so must not be in there. Just
yeah,
keep looking. Maybe read the stories. And
Yeah,
as the stories, you will see what the parents are doing with or they're not doing with. And you're like, that might be in there for a reason. Let me think about that. And through prayer and through some pondering and some experience and some experiments, you can see what can happen. And we're kind of pulling this into a fact of your positivity in the idea of learning isn't a failed opportunity. Failure is an opportunity continually to grow.
always.
And it's a shift in that, because through if you are really wanting to become perfect, in the perfection there's lots of stuff to get knocked off of you, and only through Christ can anything truly be perfected. And so you yourself will never reach perfection here. And the point is, if you don't point your arrow, if you don't point yourself in a direction of that positivity and keep trying, well, nothing's never going to happen. So it's just this amazing opportunity for many parents. And so I'd like to know the response of parents who have read your book and what they've come up to you and chatted with you about.
Um, yeah, so a lot of moms are very intrigued, but I would say I actually get the most comments from there is um, a poem written by Gilbrand, who was a Christian philosopher at the very beginning of the book. And then right after that, I basically take our launching of our daughter and write it a little bit in a storyline about releasing her and how you work so hard to help that arrow get the shaft to get straight, for the mind to be within that arrowhead so that it's sharp and it's ready to penetrate people's hearts for God. And you sit there back and you're like, okay, so it's time to launch. It's time to launch. And you're thinking, it might not go the way I want it to go. Lord, I need it to go the way you want it to go. And so a lot of the comments I get from people are, I didn't think I had to prepare my child to launch from the minute they came to my house, whether they adopted or whether they delivered. The other thing that I find very interesting is how many of the husbands enjoy the book. I think that was part of my prayer when I wrote the book, was that it wouldn't just be a mom's book, but that dads would find it important and intriguing and good conversation to have with their wives while they're raising their child. So,
Yeah, it's a team effort,
yes,
and that's hard, because the encouragement for patience, for listening, for responding when it's needed, for holding back. It we're still learning.
yeah,
There's no perfect manual written by anyone for all of this, because all unique situations. And as I say that, you go back to the scriptures, and manual is not really what I would call that. I would call a manual, point B goes to point A. Like
right,
it's very specified. This, you got to take some searching and you've got to dive in. And so the opening up, like I had mentioned, the opening up and looking, well, I don't see parenting there, so we'll just shut this and put it on the shelf. No, you gotta be within the word to understand the word. And these little ones come right from him.
that's right.
So it's emerging yourself within it, so that these little spirits, as they come, really can grow to know and love their maker, so that they want to return and bring their generation with them back. And you talked about the gospel sharing. And so in that arrow um, analogy or metaphor, what have you seen your daughter do with that idea of, bringing the gospel to the world?
So, when Lily graduated from high school, she was only 17. And we had told her we wanted her to take a gap year. And God was so gracious in that she was able to find a missionary couple in Cape Verde, Praia, Africa. So she went, and God gave her every dime that she needed, which was about almost $15,000, through friends and family who loved her. And she went there, learned the language, and was able to minister the gospel for 9 months, living with those missionaries. Now she has graduated from Florida State with a hospitality degree. She lives in Napa Valley, California, and she spends at least one day off every week volunteering for a women's shelter for battered women and their children. And she gets the opportunity to minister the gospel every day with those she works with as well. So she's just got a big heart. And I love that God brought her to us to steward, to love, and to help prepare for her launch to hit God's target.
Wonderfully said. Well, what a great opportunity you took upon yourself to know more about yourself. And as you were learning yourself, um, as this little one is placed within your care, thinking, this one needs X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to offer and show and know. And when I don't know, ask God, and all of these things, because we're not here alone. God will really help us. And I agree. Gabe says God helps us, and that's very true. He does. Thank you, Gabe. And the opportunity to live as a parent without a lot of fear, and to trust God that He's got your back, and to go forward, really sprinkles out onto the kids to feel that confidence and not always in worry.
Right.
It's hard. And so is that something that they would find within your book as well, is how, as a parent, to gain more confidence than to help give that to the kids?
I think the biggest thing I learned as a parent was that I wasn't finished learning who I was. And every time I thought I understood what God was saying, God would have my daughter be that mirror, and she would respond to me the way I had been responding to God. And I realized that that was God helping me grow so that I could be that confidence, and ultimately be that warrior for her, because God gives us our children to steward. They're not our gifts to keep. They are here to be trained up by those who God has chosen to train them up. And so we have to be confident that God chose us for a reason. So therefore, we need to constantly look. We need to get beyond our fears. There's nothing greater than, and I love when my parents say to me, I was really afraid of snakes, and you told me to go take care of that and take my kid with me. And because I did that, gosh, it's like my child has figured out how to not be fearful, because I conquered my fear and they saw me do it. They've learned how to conquer other fears. And that's where I think we as parents become more confident in why God gave us these children to steward.
Yes. And that ideal is just, it's right there in so many ways. And thinking about one more part of your book about how the parents are the warriors, have any warrior tips for any of us tonight?
Yes. You need to put your armor on. That's the first thing, because so many times we as parents wake up in the morning, we're so busy, we've got 1,000 things already listed as far as what we're supposed to do, and getting our kids out of bed and make the time to put your armor on, because you are the one who is fighting the battle for your children, not necessarily here on the earth, but in heaven. And those powers and principalities above us. You need to make sure that you're ready to say that prayer on an instant, not make it a second guess, but the minute something happens, you're able to pray on an instant. And you want your children to do that as well. So model that.
Love that. That model of putting on the armor of God and modeling and showing every day. Not just at, sometimes we list, like you were saying, and we get in routines like a checkoff list. I need to say my prayers, check. I need to pray. Fine, if that gets you started. And then you'll find the deeper meaning and not just have it be the checklist. And as your children see you or sneak up on you and catch you in the word, those
Oh
are
yeah.
great moments. Those are fantastic moments. Or like tonight, I received a text, and the text was like, "We need prayers now." Put down the phone, start saying a prayer.
Amen.
And one of my deaf daughters is thumping up. She's like trying to get my attention. I'm like, hold on a second. So finish, and then she's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Are you praying?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "For who?" Because no one else was in the room. I'm like,
Oh.
"Oh, well, I received a text and a friend need help. Why? Because illness and what have you, and describing it to her, and she's like, okay. She watched me again, and then she went out and played. Perfect teaching moment.
Yes.
I could have just been like, oh, nothing.
Yeah.
I could have no.
But don't.
And
Yeah.
don't, you got to recognize that moment, because more questions, deeper part. And yeah, after that, she left. She's on the trampoline jumping. Maybe she's thinking about that. Maybe she's not. But whatever, whichever way, that impact is there. So
Exactly.
those are those moments.
Amen.
Awesome. Okay, so warrior parents out there, if you're like, well, I'm a terrible warrior, stop.
Yeah.
Just stop right now. Jump into the book and get going. And please, this generation needs help.
Yes.
So lost in so many ways with such little foundation. We need to be the ones to stand up with God, and all these new ones are right here.
That's right.
And the lack of foundation is just shaking everywhere across the world. And that's Satan's plan.
Exactly.
So stand up. If your sword of truth is a little rusty, well, get busy. Fix that. All right. So with the time that we have left, Tammy, share with us something that you would love for the audience to know before we close it up.
It's really important that you watch your children, not from the perspective of just watching them to make sure they're safe, but watching them to see what God sees within them. The world is watching your children to define them and put them in a box. That is not how God created your children. He created them and gave them to you because he knew you would have the eyes to see them. And you need to ask him how to see them the way he sees them. And then once you think you're seeing them, even before that, you want to know your child, you want to love your child, and most of all, you want to challenge your child. Because without the challenge, they're not going to survive this world today.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much, Tammy. Now, where can we grab this book?
So the book's available on Amazon right now. It will be available in Books A Million, hopefully in the near future. And I'm trying to get it in local libraries. So if you're interested in having it in your local library, please let them know that it is available through Ingram Sparks.
Awesome. Okay, run out there, grab this book, support Tammy, but really support yourself in learning how that you, as this warrior, as a parent, you can get into the word, and that you can help redirect and maybe shoot these arrows, your children, off into better paths than what's happening now. Don't quit.
Amen.
Don't you dare quit.
Never quit.
They might be 18, 19, 20 thinking, oh no. Even if they're not within the home anymore, don't you dare quit.
Keep going.
Keep going. Yep. Keep going. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being part of the evening tonight. And we will again see you next week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.